Literally, as we went live, my phone started ringing. Anyway, hello and welcome, everyone. So I'm Pete Bakins. I chair Gamification Europe, and today I'm here to chat to Anand Mistry. And the reason we're doing this is because we've invited him to come and speak at this year's Gamification Europe. I've already chatted to him in the past about what he's going to tell us, and it's really exciting. I think there's a lot to learn. And today we're going to try and learn a bit more about Anand and his background, what brought him into all this, and get you excited about attending and hearing and learning from him. Anyway, good morning and welcome, Anand.
Thank you very much, Pete. It's great to be here and talking to you this morning. What a way to start a Friday morning. Perfect way to get us into the weekend.
Absolutely. I like that. Right, I'm going to ask a little bit about your background. I know that in your recent history, it's been very much around social enterprises. I'm not giving anything away with that. What did you do before that? What then drove you into, I guess, social enterprises?
Yeah, great question. I think when I was younger, I grew up in a very, traditional British Indian kind of background, family. And there's that saying, you can't be what you can't see. And I guess all the examples of what a career looked like and what maybe even success broadly looked like was very much that linear pathway where you go to school to get the best grades as possible. You then get into college, university, get that degree, and then you get that job and the rest is history. And so for me, that's what I saw. It was that linear pathway, very conventional. Mm-hmm. But somewhere along the line, I was curious for something more. I didn't know what that more was, but I thought this can't surely be it. So when I was younger, when I was 17, I stumbled upon this service-based leadership program that was based in India. And I thought, cool, turn up, it's 2 weeks, and then get back with the rest of my life upon return. But when I turned up and I participated, it just exposed me to a whole new world of opportunities that previously weren't accessible to me, right? My mind had been broadened beyond what I could see. And also the program was rooted and based in, I guess, social impact related work and social enterprise. So that's where, I guess, that curiosity for work that has, work that's bigger than yourself, I guess, got planted in me. And I guess more broadly than that, the personal growth that I felt being part of that program really made me seek out more of those types of opportunities going forward. So again, I wasn't fully like, okay, everything needs to be social impact beyond that, but it was just the experience that I had participating in that program for 2 weeks in a new country, around fantastic leaders, pushing me out of my comfort zone, and the personal growth that I felt really made me want to seek out more of those types of opportunities, which then meant beyond that program, it felt like my path was no longer linear. It had multiple routes. And then the story goes on from there.
That's good. Now, some people panic when they don't have a path anymore, but it sounds like that was more like what you'd been seeking and looking for.
Yeah, I think it really was. I think there was something that was exciting about not knowing, but reassured that it will be exciting. I don't know what that thing was, but it wasn't conventional. I think there was something within my mind of, I don't know, not wanting to be, this is the quote that I'm using, but average, right? I wanted to seek out something else. I didn't know what that was. And that program just enabled me to open my eyes to that. There is more out there, right? Beyond our bubbles that we live in.
I like that. Now, on your LinkedIn, I noticed that you were involved in something called the Honest Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So this is one of the things that program inspired within me. Like I said, it was rooted in, I guess, service-based work. And so I got a bit more interested in social impact. I'd never heard of really social enterprise before that program. So then I still went off to university, and when I went to university in Bristol, I thought, I wanted to continue, I guess, following those curiosities. And there's a society, it's global at universities and nationwide across the UK, called Enactus, and it's a social enterprise society that supports student enterprise for social impact. And so I got told about it just before I turned up to university. I turned up that first week, and then got involved in a team, and we attempted to start a social enterprise that supported the local homeless community through making healthy food. And I think that learning experience was very formative and very useful, just to dip my toe into the world of what does it take to be an entrepreneur? What does it take to work in more complex environments and with vulnerable, people, right? It's nothing that I'd been exposed to before. I'm not kind of claiming that we did much. We really didn't. Work was slow. But again, just that very early initial experience of that got me, I guess, moving in that world. And I think the one thing that I felt that experience was really useful for me for is that oftentimes when you're at university, you're there to be a student. And I was very clear, particularly after that program, that I didn't want to go to university just to study. Like, I didn't go to university to study. Like, the study provided the structure, but there's so much that you can get involved in beyond the study that I thought was the thing that would be my proper learning experience. And being a part of a team to start a social enterprise that works in the local community, I felt part of the local Bristol community and not just a student as part of that experience. And I think that was a really good shift for me as well.
I like that. So it sounds like you got a great learning experience from that. Another completely different mind-opening experience from the experience in India. So what was it about that experience in India that inspired you so in terms of like impact, I guess?
Yeah, it was, I think, being born and brought up, I'm based in Portsmouth, I'm still here now, being born and brought up in Portsmouth, in, relatively comfortable surroundings, having normal school and, going on a holiday in the summer, and then being taken to India and in the communities that we were working with, urban slum communities. It's just such a world away from everything that you know. So your worldview just suddenly becomes very different. And I think something that was really inspiring for me particularly were the leaders that were there that were serving these communities. Previously, I thought of leadership, and again, you can't be what you can't see. My perception of leadership was, these corporate bosses, prime minister type figure, that positional person at the top, strong, or whatever they may go on to do. But these leaders that I was interacting with in India, they had a combination of two things that I've rarely seen beyond these environments, which is they were so entrepreneurial and practically good at doing what they do. So they were real action takers, right? They really led by example and got things done in a practical way. And that was teamed with them being so compassionate and empathetic. And they were real, this sounds like a bit of a wooey word, but they were real leaders of love, like genuinely. And to see that combination of someone so practically strong and good at what they do, but also so compassionate and leading with love and giving all their time to serve these communities that sometimes they had been a part of when they were younger. That was just so incredibly inspiring for me. And that really reframed what leadership looked like for me. And therefore, I think moving forward, and again, there's this saying around, if you're looking at people like 10 years ahead of you and the path that you're on, do you want to be where they're at 10 years ahead of you? And when I was on that conventional linear path, I would look at people 10 years ahead in that conventional path. And I thought, I'm not sure if I want to be there. But when I saw these leaders, And I'm thinking they've got something here that I want, or so they were really inspiring for me. So I think it was observing how they acted and behaved and served with such love was really inspiring for me to think, okay, they've got something right here, and I've got to figure out what they've got.
I like that. I like that. So a compassionate, a take action leader who's also got a lot of compassion. You could see that, and that was now your aim. So
Yeah,
what did you
absolutely.
do next in order to reach that and get there?
Yeah, fascinating, because oftentimes when you then come back from these experiences, you're then back into your own world,
Mm.
right? And it's so easy to fall back into old patterns. You become the people that you're surrounded by. So although I had these very powerful, inspiring experiences, you're then surrounded by people who are, I guess, haven't had these experiences, which is absolutely fine, right? And then you're thinking about career and job and money, right? And financial stability and security, all these things that feel so important at that age. So I think career-wise, I thought, okay, let me just let me seek out an internship. That's what everyone was doing when I was at university. So I got a corporate internship, and I did that over one of my summers during university, and it was fine, right? I was behind a desk. It was a nice office. Work was, slow-ish. And I'm not saying this was a fully representative experience of what work is like. I was an intern, right? But I think it was only fine for me because I knew it was temporary. It was. I learned what that world looked like, but I didn't feel it was for me. And so then the summer after, again, now understanding and actually physically experiencing what this experience is like, I then wanted to connect back to the work that was going on in India. And it was then when I created my own internship with a social enterprise that works on the challenges of waste management and women's empowerment. Went back to India, spent my summer there, and it was a completely different experience to the corporate internship that I'd done the summer before. That was behind a desk, work was slow, you do what you need to do. This was an incredibly dynamic environment, pushed out of my comfort zone, navigating cultural and language barriers. Every day was something different. I'd been given like real responsibility and ownership with my tasks. Again, I was alongside an incredible leader that was guiding me through the way. And I learned so much. I would still say to this day, that was the most powerful learning experience that I'd had. And so now having the contrast of that corporate internship and the social enterprise internship in India that I had, then the choice beyond that felt very clear. Then it wasn't, okay, I don't know still if I want to do this world of social entrepreneurship. I hadn't experienced a corporate life before. So until you've done it, you never really know, right? But now I'd had the contrast of the experience and how this learning experience was so outweighed by this one. It felt very clear that moving forward, that I felt confident to take that path of, I don't know, international development, social entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial path. Again, not knowing exactly what that looked like, but that gave me it was a very formative experience that enabled me to feel more confident to take that path moving forward.
I feel like we've got a real insight into like what motivates you from this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what have you been able to do? And I ask this very carefully without giving away the topic of your talk too much. But
Sure.
let's talk about like who you've been working with, what sort of impacts, what have you been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So very luckily, straight then out of university, that social enterprise that I'd worked with that summer, they then partnered with the United Nations Development Programme. So very fortunately, straight out of university, I got to book a one-way ticket back to India to work on the ground with that social enterprise, but this time on a UNDP role. And I guess to give a bit of context to the work that I was supporting, littered roads in India can be a common sight, and women that live in poorer communities see this waste as an opportunity, and they take to the streets in the early hours of the morning and pick up this waste from the roadside and sell it to earn an income to provide for their family. They're walking around 8 to 10 kilometers every day, picking up around 20 kilograms of waste every single day. and unfortunately they get underpaid and exploited for the work that they do. And to give a bit of context, there are around 30,000 of these women in the city that I've worked in that are doing this work every single day, which means that 600,000 kilograms of waste has been picked up by these women and facilitated to the recycling center because of what they do every single day. So the work that they're doing is phenomenal. So the fact that they're exploited and underpaid for the work is just awful. So what this social enterprise has done, and the work that I was supporting, is they've intervened in the market as an open and transparent actor, giving fair returns for the women's waste collection. So on day one, their incomes increase, but they also take a really holistic approach to their work. So they're thinking about the women's health, they're thinking about their families, they're thinking about their children's education, they're thinking about the debt trap cycles that these women are caught in. And because of their holistic approach, they really, address around 14 out of 17 UN SDGs. And over the years, they've managed to take some of the women off the streets waste picking in an informal manner and have brought them into the mainstream of waste management, where they go door to door collecting segregated waste from households in a more formal and dignified way. And one of my roles was to, support their ongoing day-to-day work, but also figure out a way how we can engage, more research to the on-ground work that was happening, engage more partners, engage more stakeholders, inspire more volunteerism to come. And so my task was to figure out ways to engage people to come and see the work that was going on and support the work.
Excellent. That's a really good insight into the project. And I think anyone listening is now getting a hint of where the gamification may come in.
Potentially.
Engagement, that's the key word there. So I liked hearing about how they're covering like 14 of the 17 SDGs. That's something that definitely ticks a lot of boxes for me and the type of projects I like to work with. So let's talk about. Actually, I'm conscious of the time. I've enjoyed listening to you.
Let's
talk about a little bit about how you've gone about building those experiences. What are they, and what sort of impact and involvement has it brought? Has it worked?
Yeah, great question. I think at that time when I was in India, I don't come from any kind of academic background. I've not designed, learning experiences before that. But what I had been fortunate to be a part of are really powerful learning experiences, whether that was the program that I'd been in India, my cousin, and who's now my co-founder, he'd been a part of designing some things, workshops and stuff before. So he was a great mentor for me. So the biggest reflection that I had was that we learn best through personal experience. And the grounding of the work that I was doing in India, they take an approach where they realize that as well as the external work that's happening, a lot of the work is internal, right? So everything in our external world is a product of our internal world. So in order to achieve that external transformation, a level of internal transformation is required. So that was the grounding that I'd had. And I knew that was very powerful for me. So that realization that we learn best through experience, but also then reflecting internally on our personal experiences that we had. So figuring out a way to merge these together was the, solution to try and bring, what I was experiencing in India into the classroom. And another big reflection was not everyone can just fly out to India like I did. And for me, India and the on-ground realities were a really, powerful inspiration for me. So with these reflections in mind, what we did was use the power of gamification and role play simulations to bring these on-ground realities into the classroom. And so it was a way of very much figuring out, very detailed step-by-step process of figuring out how can we bring these on-ground elements that we're experiencing for ourselves into a classroom environment through the power of gamification. So how can we translate what's going on here into a safe classroom environment? And so it was just that process of ticking off and figuring out, okay, these women do this at this time. So how do we bring that into the classroom? And so it was a very iterative process to do that. I'll obviously go into more of that about how we did that in my talk. But we ended up designing this, I guess, simulation game. And at this time, we didn't know, how good it was. We had a sense we had created something cool. But then when we delivered these workshops at UK universities, we then did have so many participants come up to us and say, how can I get more involved? We had professors saying, how can I get more involved? And, so much so we had students go on to fly out to India to work on the ground with the social enterprise, which is something that we weren't expecting at all. But within a few months, that happened.
That's great. And so has it helped build links between some of these universities and the project?
Yeah, exactly. So, we've had universities, fly their professors out, their students out, take part in, I guess, live projects for their students and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's great to see what can be inspired through this work, and what the kind of real on-ground action and impact that can be achieved, completely. And I think the other reflection that I had was, oftentimes when you're sat in a lecture hall and someone's talking at you, I always think, that is great because you can reach people at scale, right? You can get a whole, auditorium full of people listening to what you're saying. But what if 90% of the people in that room are on their phones or not listening, right? You'd rather have 30 students in a classroom or 30 participants in a classroom fully engaged and fully inspired by what they do. So that percentage of action inspired beyond the session, I think, is so much higher than what could be achieved through talking at someone with a high number of audience participants.
So let me ask a couple of little details. So how long have you been running these experiences for?
Yeah, so that was around since 2019, that particular experience. Our work is, I guess, inspired by a body of work that's gone on before me, though. So, like I said, my cousin, who's my co-founder, and other people in that kind of network have been running different types of learning programs in the past in a different way, sometimes using kind of role-playing gamification in their work. But Project Chakra and this side of what we do has been going since 2019.
That's very cool. And I know we've talked about universities a lot. It sounds like a good experience for a corporate probably as well, and CSR side of things. If you've done anything in that space.
So we first initially started working with universities with the aim of, I guess, reaching and inspiring young people. But yes, these experiences, I think because of the experiential nature of what we do, they're incredibly powerful for, I guess, evoking deep learning outcomes in people. But it also forces people to interact with each other in ways they ordinarily wouldn't. So again, as a team building experience as well, it brings people together in a very unique way. So we've also run these experiences for corporate teams, different programs, for different reasons, actually. So interestingly, corporates bring us in for usually 3 different reasons. One is the social impact and sustainability stuff. The other is the skill development, and the other is the team building. But what's really interesting when you take an experiential approach to this, I guess, area, is that no matter which area that you feel you're bringing us in for, actually, as a natural byproduct of the experiential approach, you're also getting the sustainability and social impact. You're also getting the skill development if the main reason you're bringing us in is the team building, right? So no matter which, I guess, reason that you're bringing us in for, those 3 will always be covered because of the experiential approach that we take.
That's very cool. I'm aware as well that the project has won an award in education. Can you tell us briefly about that?
Yeah, sure. It's one of those things that when I was in India back in, was it 2018-19, when I was developing this experience, this first experience that we developed, little did I know that this experience that I was designing, living off £1 a day in very, resource constrained communities with no budget, would go on to become, I guess, recognized as one of the world's most innovative learning I guess, programs. So yeah, in 2022, we went on to win the Progressive Education Delivery Award at the Pioneer Awards, and they're the only global awards that celebrate innovation and achievement across the whole of the international education industry. And so I was sat in the room alongside, nominated alongside, these multinational companies and universities with their multi-million-pound budgets, and I'm just sat there like, we did this, bootstrapped, and we're just a very small team of like 3 at this stage, and yeah, we won.
I lost you for a moment there, but I think it was me.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I was just saying that. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
So I probably just missed the last sentence of what you said, but I liked what I was hearing at that point. What I was going to actually move on to was what would be a key bit of learning someone's going to get from coming to listen to your talk, and who would you think it would most suit? Who would get the most from it?
Yeah, great question. I think so. There's, I guess, a couple of elements. So one is understanding how you can build your own impactful learning experiences using the powerful elements of gamification and role play simulations, and particularly how role play can massively enhance the power that gamification in itself has. So that additional element, but also that realization that, sometimes, and I've felt and experienced, is that sometimes gamification can feel like it's just something that's fun, or it's cute. It's nice that you have these gamified elements within what you do. But actually, the realization that we have, and I'd love to share with the audience, is that these are incredible, powerful learning experiences and tools that can really inspire people to take action for positive impact, whether that's within their industries or, I guess, beyond into the wider world, and really inspire the next generation of change makers. And so if you're someone within a corporate learning and development team, if you're working within corporate social responsibility or ESG, or within kind of HR, this is perfect for you. And also, if you're maybe an academic leader, thinking about how you can think about more innovative ways of embedding, I guess, a more innovative experiential approach to your learning, this could also be very useful for you as well.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And I've got to admit, I can't wait to see you speak and see the audience reactions as well, because I know some of what's coming. Which I think
thank you so much, Pete, for having me and for this chat this morning. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm super excited for the conference. It will be my first time attending a conference like this, and I'm super impressed that we're bringing kind of the gamification interest and community together in this experiential way. So I'm super excited for all the other talks and participating myself.
That's absolutely fantastic. We'll see you in London in a few weeks' time, and we'll see anyone else who's watching in London too.